was 1938, and British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain had just returned from a meeting with Adolf Hitler, famously declaring he'd achieved peace in our time. In Canada, Norman Baker celebrated, thinking war was averted.
We didn't believe it for long because he had hardly got his feet on the ground when news came that Hitler had marched into Poland.
That was Baker's moment, when he decided he had to do his part, so he enlisted with his brother Hugh. But Baker was, as he is now, of smaller stature and wasn't allowed to fight. He was put in a support unit and sent to England, where he asked again to be reclassified.
I guess it was the English beer and the English mutton that put weight on me.
But fighting wasn't in the cards for Corporal Baker of the Canadian Royal Regiment. He would become a clerk, never far from battle, but not close enough to fire his gun.
Our Major MacArthur, he was killed on the 7th of August. He was a fine chap.
Instead, one of his jobs was to name and tally the Canadian dead.
There's 3 killed here. And
it was a grim task, tracking the fallen, with the enemy never far away.
Because the Germans were out over here.
Despite being a clerk, he routinely ducked mortars and gunfire. And then there was the day a squadron of Royal Air Force Lancasters dropped their 500-pound bombs on his position.
Bombs landed, and I thought my end had come. I really did.
He survived and then had to record what had happened. After the war, he came home and did what many veterans did.
I tried to forget it, really. When I came back home, I never talked about it.
It wasn't until he was in his 80s that he was urged to talk about his experiences. He visited his old Toronto school and found kids eager to listen.
Telling kids to make sure they use their vote and make sure they use it wisely.
Norm Baker, who retired as sergeant, is now 101. He spent the war observing, decades after trying to forget. And now, with the help of his journal, he's passing on the history lessons he lived. Mike Drolay, Global News, Toronto.